Welcome to All Power to the Developing, a podcast of the Eastside Institute, where social justice, human development, and community building come together. This is where you will meet activists, artists, teachers, scholars, helpers, and healers who are bringing creativity, hope, and possibility to individuals and communities all over the world. Everyone out there, welcome to All Power to the Developing. This is your host, Desiree Wandin, Des for short, and welcome. So happy for all the listeners to be with us today. Today we have a very special guest. Today's guest is a social entrepreneur, educator, and community leader, working to ignite a new generation of young change makers across Africa through education, mentorship, and leadership development. The founder of Kosi Africa and Kosi Tech, and an alumni of the Eastside Institute's international class. Please welcome to All Power to the Developing, Wycliffe Barsa. Hey, Wycliffe.
How are you, Des? Thank you so much, and for this opportunity, just giving me the opportunity to come and share my story and my work with the international community.
Yes. Thank you so much. This is going to be a great opportunity. I really would like to get into your work, all the amazing things that you do in Kenya. And for those who may not know, we just mentioned your organization, Kosi Africa. What is Kosi Africa, and what makes it different from other youth-focused initiatives?
Yeah, just say thank you so much. Kosi Africa is a youth-led organization. It's a non-profit. Actually with a mission to build or nurture a new generation of young leaders who are just not problem solvers, but in fact visionaries. And we need these who will be having a yearning. They'll yearn to go back to the community and do impact beyond the community and the world. What makes us actually different? It's sustainability. Therefore, most non-profit, or I can say social enterprise, they tend so much working on just solving the problem, but they don't work on sustainability model. For the way we have been structured, we have structured Kosi Africa in terms of we ensure like every project we do, there is a sustainability model. And I think you can't work on a sustainability model if you're working for the community. But if you're working with the community, then you can actually identify with the community you're working to ensure like every project you're doing is sustainable. Everything you're talking about, it's sustainable, because there's a lot that's been happening since actually the USAID moved out from Africa and from the world. I have seen a lot of organization going down because they never had that model on how they can be sustainable. Well, that's actually our difference, the biggest difference we have in the market.
And I know that you've launched programs like the $1 Back to School campaign and the Edu Green and the Chipukuzi Innovative Leadership Program. Could you share some of what those programs do, and how that how that kind of led you to Kosi Africa? If maybe that was the launching point there.
Yes, before launching Kosi Africa, I remember we had something called $1 Back to School Foundation. And maybe how it came up about $1 Back to School Foundation, I was a very good an activist. For there's a moment I had petitioned the whole country against, in the country here, there's something called disco matanga, meaning these are music played during funeral period of time, the period of funeral at night. Therefore, for us here, we don't actually bury our people very early. Sometimes it takes 2 weeks or 1 week. Therefore, during that night, before we actually bury, there's a lot of loud music actually playing, and it was part of the culture. I wanted this to be eliminated because it was causing a lot of. Remember, if you want to invest in a community, you need to invest in a community where the environment is better. That's how actually I was like, before we invest in this community very well, we must ensure that our young people stay in a good environment. And then I remember when I was now working with the school, understanding what's the problem, and I met these 50 young kids actually who had actually been sent home from one of the school I was just going, and I asked them what's the issue. They said we have been sent home to look for exam money, and that time was 100 shilling, which is like equal to $1. And I was like, this is just 100 shillings, and other kids were doing their exams who had paid. And that's the moment we went back with them, and I paid the $50, which is 5,000 here, Kenya shilling. And I was so proud seeing like only $50 can actually impact these young kids to be back to school doing those exams. And that's why the word $1 back to school. And I think it's a community of people across the globe, people across Kenya, people who just give monthly donation. And this donation now go towards these young kids we actually sponsor and we actually support in schools. But now that was like, there was no sustainability because I have to come to you today, say, can you give us $1 so that we can help this kid? It was not sustainable. And that's why now the idea, when we actually founded Kosi Africa in 2021, and we were like, we need to be sustainable. How can we start working with the community? And that's why the Edu Green project came in. Now, Edu Green project came in to solve the problem of these young kids dropping out of school. How? Edu Green, this is where we actually discovered that many young kids are dropping out of school, but the school do not have sustainable programs to ensure that these kids can stay in school. And there was a big problem with environment, education, and also farming, because 75% of Kenyan household depends on farming. For you find that when you have any environmental destruction or climate action, there's a problem. And that's why they're dropping out of school. We're like, okay, schools have resources, parents can actually work with our kids together and teachers. Therefore, we came up with a program to introduce where these kids actually, one, they can learn skills, but raise seedlings, and these seedlings we are able to sell them. For the money which we get from selling the seedling, we don't sell because we say we don't want to be an organization which goes to people we need money. For example, if someone who wants to invest in Kosi Africa, the only way you can buy seedlings, the ones these kids have raised, these are now indigenous seedlings, but 50% of the money we get goes to these kids towards their education, now to pay for those small exam fee, the food and everything. And half of the money, half of it, which is now a quarter of it, goes to recycling back the project towards other young kids who are going to join next year. And the other one goes to expansion to another school. And I think that's how we have been like turning, just being working with $1 back to school was just like, I have to come to you, go and pay this in the school. Now we have resources. Schools have water, has land. And that's how we're actually doing what you're doing. Like Edu Green came in to do that. And now if you go Chipukizi Innovation Leadership Program, there's a big problem we have because as Kosi Africa, our main mantra is we discover, we ignite, we build, we ignite, and they ignite. Therefore, remember, whenever we are discovering, we have projects which we run on mentorship for like Empower With program. We go to schools. We have gone to more than 300 schools since we started. This is around 70 schools. But after you discover these young people, we put them in projects like Edu Green. For as they grow, moving from primary, now finalizing high school, they need to be ready to go to university. For our young kids, there's a very big gap between these young kids to be prepared and the industry. Like they're not prepared to go to universities in terms of career guidance, in terms of mentorship, in terms of them solving problems. Therefore, what Chipukizi Innovation Leadership Program comes in, the word Chipukizi is a Swahili word, meaning like the young, you're coming up as young people. For what Chipukizi does is we provide these young kids. We had our first cohorts, actually. There's a cohort which came out, just graduated last week. We were targeting kids who have actually graduated high school. They have 8 months at home. 8 months at home. They're doing nothing. Within those 8 months, they join us an online program where they come actually to learn financial literacy. Number two, mindset. That's a big thing for us because mindset is about how this young person thinks about the world, how they think about how to solve problem, and how they say a lot of things. And then also we have data and decision. Because remember, is this a kid going to university? They want to use data whenever they're doing projects, but they don't know how to use data. And lastly, there is now a capstone project, which is now the entrepreneurial program. For our capstone projects, these kids come in a group, they solve a problem for the first time. They work in groups, solve a problem in their community, and they're able to pitch it in front of our facilitators. And to me, that was like prepare these young people before they go to university. And maybe something I've been talked about is career development. Career development has a lot of things on how they speak in the school, how communication, on how actually they prepare themselves on social media, and on how actually they write CVs and those things together. For it's a huge thing we do with them together. For that's how actually we prepare and we ignite them. For as they also now go to ignite other people. For we have several projects. For how Kosi Africa has been structured is we have mentorship programs and we have projects. Now projects are sustainable. Mentorship programs is how we give back to the community without asking them anything from their pocket. Because our projects like EduGreen, there's some finance inside. Even Chipki's Innovation Leadership Program, people are paying for the program to be part of the program for us to be sustainable. And we have also a Code of Change. Code of Change is where we train these kids to do crocheting. And actually, maybe I will send you some of the videos you can use for people to see what these kids do. They come up with crocheting materials, a lot of things they come, and we're able to sell them. We are also now working on new programs on plastic so that we can actually work with kids so that how we can recycle well plastics and then for them to actually benefit what they're doing.
Wow, so a lot of amazing work. With all of the grassroots initiatives that you've built, I'm very curious what it's been like trying to build all of these grassroots initiatives in Kenya. What have been some of your biggest challenges? And you know, when things get hard, how do you maintain and keep going?
Yes, most people will tell you finance is what brings all these problems, but the reality is finance is always like 10%. And one of the biggest problem is one, you might go to a community and there's that difference, there's that difference between the way you think you need to actually do things. Because remember, mindset starts with most people in our community today. For example, let me just take example now in where I come from. Most people, when they see the word a non-profit or a charity, what are they seeing? They're seeing you have money and it's a must you help them. For our model is not like that. For we want to change that narrative. And that's the bigger thing. Imagine like you're in a place, we even see teachers telling us, oh, you know what? You guys are a non-profit, you have money. We see parents. Therefore, there's that mindset, which one we struggle a lot to break. Because you're not just going there to help these kids, pay them their tuition fee or pay them the exam fees or the stipend, such things. No. For us, we are going there like to identify the problems. We want to work with the community. For the time we take to convince the parents, the community itself, the schools, even the government, and the people, all the stakeholders, it's a lot. Because the mindset of people, how they think about organizations which are non-profit or charity, it's actually different. For that's the biggest struggle we do. And for us to do that, actually, the solution we brought to do that is during discovery. During discovery, whenever we discover school, we have something called an audit, called resource audit. Resource audit, we don't go to school telling them we have resources, no. We go to school asking them, okay, fine, what type of resources do you have? How can we now work from the resources you have and work with the parents, work with the community, and we solve together this problem? And that's why you will find, for example, like EduGreen, if you want to put everything together, EduGreen might be taking around $6,000 per school. But the reality is, EduGreen now takes $2,000 per school. Why? The school provides water for free. Those are resources we can say. The school has land. Most school has land, 2 acres, 3 acres. They provide free. The school provides security where we're going to put everything. Imagine those are the 3 main things we need when you're doing nurseries. The only thing now, what Kosi Africa does is we facilitate the resources of the irrigation materials or the nursery materials or such things. Now, for you find even now the kids now themselves, we work with them together to do what you're doing. Therefore, the biggest thing I can say, the biggest challenge is how can you actually convince and teach these communities, telling them, we are a charity, but the reality is we are not here actually to just come and help. We are here to come and work together. That's the biggest thing actually I've actually faced within our community whenever we do our projects.
Yes. We're going to take a short commercial break. When we come back, we'll be right back with Wycliffe as he continues to share with us the amazing work that he's doing in Kenya with his nonprofit organizations. And we're going to dip a little bit into his personal journey when we come back and learn more about Wycliffe. We'll be right back on All Power to the Developing.
Hi, I'm Melissa Meyer, Associate Director of the Eastside Institute. Welcome to All Power to the Developing. I hope you're enjoying today's conversation. In each episode, we introduce you to some amazing performance activists, play revolutionaries, and developmentalists from around the world who talk to us about their creative grassroots efforts to build a better world. If you like what you hear, please follow and share the series. You can find us on Amazon, Spotify, and Podbean. We'd love to hear your comments and ideas. Like everything at the Institute, the growth of All Power to the Developing depends upon the people who create it and benefit from it. We hope you're one of them. Thanks for your support, and now back to our conversation.
Welcome back to All Power to the Developing with Wycliffe Barsa. Wycliffe, you shared that your grandmother had a huge influence on your values and your sense of community. Can you tell us about her and the lessons that she gave to you that really shaped who you are today and shaped the work that you do today?
Yes. Most of the time I still, that's a question always takes me back to my grandma. My grandma was because I lost my grandma last year when I was in international class. But the reality is my life started from the street for 5 years. And when I came away from there when I was 12, I met my grandma the first time. And she's the one actually who raised me up since My grandma was she was a herbalist and at the same time was a midwife. And one of her history of being a midwife is she helped women to give birth more than 2,000 and no one died on her hand. And that is, for me, it's an inspirational story. But apart from that, what you see today at Kosi Africa about environmental conservation, it's a story I get from her, and even education. I'll start with education. My grandma never went to school. She actually left us with 106. But the reality is she never went to school, but she was a woman who actually took serious about young people going back to school. And as she raised me up, she was someone, I remember one day she went to the school, she never had money. And she went to a school where I was studying in primary, and we were sent home. She took me back and she told the head teacher, if you send this kid back home, then I will come for you. And I was like, Even the head teacher was so shocked. I remember that moment, and the head teacher was like, I can't again send this kid at home. But the reality is, while I was at home, I was working, I was good in creativity in terms of doing baskets for people, just to do their baskets for them, like to carry things. I started getting some money selling what I was selling, and even my grandma having those herbal medicine and everything, we were getting some funds. But what my grandma did was so different. That time we never had money, but the money I had received, she asked me one thing: do you ever see some kids who don't go to school? And I said yes. And then she said, whatever you get, 50% is what we get, 50% is to go and help other people. And that's how actually I started even helping kids in school that moment who were not able to pay for the exam money, which was just $1 for. And also my grandma was someone who was so welcoming. We were eating at 6 p.m. and we had a lot of people just coming just to eat together with my grandma. And that inspiration of my grandma, who never went to school but taking serious about education, inspired me inside. And she once told me, I don't need you to be rich. I want you to be wealth with impact. And wealth with impact is actually ensuring, can you actually help someone? Can you impact someone when you're down? And lastly, my grandma about the herbalist. And she told me one day that there's a period of time in life where even the scientist or the technology, it will be very difficult to heal some of our diseases because we are losing a lot of our indigenous trees, which are for medicinal. And that's why you see the idea of Edu Green came in. For she said you need to have an opportunity in the world where you can actually embrace bringing back our indigenous trees. For the biggest purpose of why Edu Green we are having is to replant back our indigenous trees across our community, across our schools, and even across our forest. And to me, my grandma she's hope. And whenever where she is, I know she's a happy person seeing me what I'm doing today. And that's what I can just support. That's why actually Kosi Africa comes from. The word Kosi, people ask me, what's the meaning of the word Kosi? Kosi means, in my language, it was to be a double O on Kosi, but it means Kosi means go. It's from my story of what I passed through. My grandma saw. She said, you keep moving, keep making that impact. That's why when we named Kosi, it just came from her, Kosi Africa.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. Grandmother gave you such powerful energy and powerful vibration and spirit to carry out a lot of the work that you're doing. So thank you so much for sharing that. You were part of the Eastside Institute's international class, which brings together social innovators from all over the world. How did that experience impact you personally, and how did that impact your work moving forward out of the program?
Yeah, I think for me, being part of the international class, I really thank Jeff Aaron and Lois. They gave me a very big carry. They gave me a lot of opportunity just to be part of a family. First of all, I got a new family for the international class. And this was during now when I lost my grandma. They were there. They did everything. That's something for me. It outclassed everything, what I can think. But the international class has opened a lot of what we're doing. For me, being at international class personally, I have grown a lot in terms of play, how to actually integrate play within the education system. Because remember, I was raised up, went to a school where everything was like, you need to know, cram this, go and write down, pass your exam. But there was no enjoyment within the education system. But for me, being at the international class, it gave me, I remember that's the moment we were doing our Empower Wave program. Empower Wave program is where we actually discover school. We go to school for mentorship program. I bring in young people who are mentors. across the board, startups, organizations, people want to give back to the community. Bring like 50 mentors. We go to around 30 or 20 schools, 20 to 30 schools in a week, just to ensure like we can discover these schools. But the reality is, before, play was not part of what we considered. We were just going to this school or meet these young kids, tell them how career and everything, who we are and everything. And I realized, we need to change how we need actually to work with. And I learned it from the international class, where I remember whenever we were coming to our session, the first thing was, you must start with something, play. And that gave me hope. And that's something we have actually implemented in our Empower With program. That whenever, first of all, we get mentors who are open to come and mentor young people, they have a one session to learn on how to use play. And even before, when you go to schools, whenever we meet, we have to have a session with them, 2 hours, to teach them how to use play. Because that actually has unlocked a lot of stories. I can guarantee you, whenever we go to these schools, kids are very open. They're able to tell their stories, they're able to tell their problems, and you're able actually to identify the problems of these kids who are passing through. Some teachers are telling me, like, why is it these kids are so open to you guys than us? And I told them is the way we approach them. And that has been the impact of being part of the East Institute, the international class. And remember, I was also like the ambassador of the Global Play Brigade, which actually goes a lot of play, like introducing. And this is something from I'm very proud. And lastly, also, I have also been able actually to say, to identify more problems within our schools. For we are having our our teachers' wellness program. Remember, our teachers are the one actually working with our kids. But most organizations actually don't care about them. They care about the mental health of kids. For what the international class taught me is, as a young person, an upcoming social entrepreneur, and an upcoming impactful person, I was able to get a space where I was to relieve myself. I was actually to talk to people, to bring out my anger and everything, and to be able to heal. And that's also which I'm bringing to teachers. They need a space where they're able to bring out their anger, to heal, to talk their problem, and to be able to be helped, to ensure like they can work with our young kids in these schools. And to me, the international class, I'm a family. I'm part of the family. There's a lot of things have happened there. I've made good friends. We're doing great things together. And to the people actually who would love actually to join the international class, I think if you're working with the community very well, there's a lot of things you're going to learn. And even I learned on how working with the community. Remember when Carrie was Lois likes so much talking about the rhizomes. And if you understand how rhizomes, it's how you build a community, a movement of people. You can't build a movement without bring the concept of rhizomes. And I think that's something also I learned from the international class. And for me, I'm a proud person just to be part of that class. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And we're so happy that you were able to be a part of that. That is such an amazing opportunity to be with other innovators from all around the world together in this 9-month learning process.
Thank you.
You worked with so many young people navigating difficult circumstances, lack of access to unemployment, sometimes hopelessness, other issues that happen. Earlier, you spoke of being in the international class and starting a lot of the sessions with play to give you some hope. What are some other things that give you hope right now?
Yes, it's a good question, actually. One of the things which gives me hope is the potential of our young people. That's the first thing. Whenever I go to schools or I meet a young person, I mentor a lot these schools, and that those young people I mentor into entrepreneurship, and that those just personal mentorship. And one of the things is about their story and what they want to do. That story gives me hope. And that story gives me that the mission, the vision you're having at Kosi Africa, actually our vision is to build 10,000 young people who are impact leaders, who are going back to those communities and ignite others. For that is our mission. But for me, meeting them and seeing their potential, that the only thing in between them is someone to go and unleash it. And remember, I always tell people a candle loses nothing when it ignites another candle. For these kids, that they just like those are just candles which do not have someone who have lit, like to have a lit only. To me, the potential within these young people, and number two, the stories. Whenever I want to give up, I go back to the stories. Sometimes I carry a lot of papers and everything. They write to me how they have actually you find some kids we found like they never went to school. They were at home for the whole year, and we actually facilitated them to go back to school. They're part of this project working on this, and they just tell you they write down a story sometime. And whenever I read, it helps me to cry out. Crying out helps me actually to heal and helps me to, we have potential. And also is the stories I share with people worldwide. People always are so positive about supporting our work and about being part of what we actually building. For example, we have been looking for mentors for our teachers' well-being program. And I can guarantee you, every side from the East Institute, the international class people, from the Global Play Brigade, from all my friends across, they're like, I want to be part of that. And that gives you hope that I'm building a movement of people who are just not coming together because they want to be paid or what, but they want just to actually support these young kids, ignite them, and be able to go back their community and actually unleash their potential.
Yes, yes. Today, when you look at the world, the social divisions, the climate crisis, the uncertainty, what do you see through your lens as an African leader, as someone who's working on the ground level, on the community level? What do you see for the future of either Kenya or the totality of Africa, who's had several challenges throughout, its decades into the centuries?
Yeah, I think for me, I've been working a lot with the Gen Zs, and most people might be seeing how those young people are reacting and how they have that potential of change. And I think one of the things is I've realized is there are many organizations solving the same problem in this world. But the gap is, why can't these organizations come together, solve the problem together? Because for me, the biggest thing is not about having the name of your organization. It's not about saying this is what you need to do. I think the world needs to stop being selfish as impact leaders than saying I can do it to we can do it together. Because remember, the Gen Zs, these are young people who are tribalists. These are young people that they don't have religion. These are young people that they believe in one thing. And to me, if we can come together, we can solve all the biggest problems together. But if we are actually going to be saying, I want to solve this, then it will be difficult for us to solve. And lastly, I think if we want to actually solve what we're solving, we need to go back to be human beings. I think I'm seeing the world, people are just beings. There's that word humanity has been removed from a human being. And that's why you see everything is happening. Have wars, because if you're someone, you can't kill your neighbor if you are a human being. But if you're just a being, you can do anything. The word humanity has something called humility. And humility, it's something brings a lot of people togetherness. Therefore, the world just need to actually, I think people need to go back to be called human beings, not just called beings, to ensure that we work together to care our environment and to ensure we are one thing, to ensure that whenever we are out there, we are solving to ensure that we have a better world we have a better humanity. And that's something I can tell the world, because if we don't become human beings, the humanity is moving away from us. That's why you see we have a lot of people who are in poverty. The number of wars in Africa has actually skyrocketed to more than 33 wars in Africa. No one knows about that today, but today we have more than 33 wars happening in Africa. We have more than 137 wars across the world. But because that humanity is missing. But if you can bring that humanity, work together, and the way one of our slogan, we say, igniting candles.
Yes.
My grandma said, you will never lose anything if you can ignite someone. And igniting candles is part of also humanity. It's not about helping, but ensuring you can support someone somewhere. And lastly, I want people not to go and say, I want to change the world. I want people to go to their community, that village, and say, what problem can I solve? Let them start from there. Because sometimes we might be having these dreams of changing Africa, changing the world. But the reality, it starts from your community there. That's the place it can start. And let's all actually preach peace and practice peace. Because you can't be preaching peace and you don't practice peace here.
Okay. Absolutely. And lastly, Wycliffe, thank you so much. This has been such a beautiful conversation. Thank you for sharing your work. The name of this podcast is called All Power to the Developing. Is the name of this podcast. When you hear that phrase, what is something that comes to mind for you?
Yeah, to me, all power to the development, it's a powerful one. I think it takes me back to my community. And talking about development and the definition of development. For most people, there's this narrative, actually, you find that when you go to those villages and you ask people, what's development? Who needs to bring for you development? Every person will say, it's a political leader. And that's where we have messed a lot. Development is how actually the whole community come together to actually improve how we are actually living. Because development to me it's wide, and it also depends on the projects you're working with. If it's mentorship, development comes a lot in terms of relationship, in terms of knowledge. There's knowledge development. Now, if it comes to a project, these are now physical development, Now, this is where you see, if it's environmental development, if it is financial development. Therefore, to me, we need to when I see that word, I always tell people I see hope, because development is what is going actually to actually move what we need to do. And adding the word power in the development, it means for us to actually push our humanity and make the world a better place, we need actually to invest in that word. Invest in the word of development, because development is what brings change. Development is what pushes people today to the street. Development is what makes people today, you see, women giving birth in hospitals which are good. Development is what actually making differences between third world countries and even first world countries. But that's a powerful word. And the way I said, if you add power, it becomes more powerful. Yeah.
And lastly, Wycliffe, if people would like to learn more about your work, to see your organization, to stay in contact with you, to donate to your initiative, how can people do that?
Yes, thank you so much. If you want to see our work, you can just go to www.kosiafrica.org. You will get a lot. And if you want actually to partner with us, you can actually reach us to partner@kosiafrica.org, or you can also send to our email info@kosiafrica.org. For people doing mentorship who would like to mentor our young people, you can also send at mentors@kosiafrica.org. But everything is on the website. If you just never get to our website, if you go to Light, our mentorship program is called Light That Candle. So you can just go there. There's a form you can fill. And we also, if you also host different people at Kosi Africa these days, we call it experience in action, for where I want our young people here to think global and act local. You can also go there to experience in action. And if you want us to host you, we would love to host you, to learn from you. And yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much. And Wycliffe, alongside with some of his panelists, will be presenting at Performing the World the next month in November, taking place November 13th to the 16th. So that's going to be an amazing 4 days. And Wycliffe will be one of the people presenting. So it'll be a great opportunity to get more in depth with the work going on in Africa after you listen to this podcast. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening to All Power to the Developing. This is your host, Desiree Wanden, Des for short. If you would like to write to us and let us know what you love about the podcast, you could do so by writing to us at podcast@eastsideinstitute.org. I repeat, that is podcast@eastsideinstitute.org. We would love to read your response at the end of an episode, so please write to us. Let us know what's going on. You could also follow us on all most digital streaming platforms, Apple Music, Amazon Prime, Spotify. Follow us, like, comment, subscribe. We also have our Facebook page. Thank you so much for listening. And as Wycliffe said, a candle loses nothing by lighting another candle. This has been a pleasure. All power to the developing. All Power to the Developing was made possible in part by Growing Social Therapeutics, the Baylor Wolf Fund,